Hello, everyone. Welcome to another interesting episode on Pivot to Thrive podcast. As you know, I don't do a lot of interview style podcast unless I've got amazing guests who've got beautiful stories to share. So today's guest is one such person I met very recently in a marketing event at Sydney, and I was introduced to the term podcasting. So as a podcast host, I was very intrigued by that idea, and I'm going to learn with you about how he has introduced this particular term and has made six-figure income in less than 10 months and has helped so many other people achieve the same. So put your hands together and welcome Steve Brossman to our show. Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hey Priya, lovely to be here. And I'm really excited to share some behind the scenes, some cool things with your wonderful people.
Thank you so much. So you've got a very interesting journey from Olympics to podcasting. So can we have a quick 90-second pitch from you? Just, I don't know where you'll start, but I'll let you do that.
I always tell people I got into business by accident. I was actually training for the Olympics and crushed three discs in my back. And I tell people, you don't run real fast with a broken back. So I fell in love with the fitness industry as I was going through rehab, and I thought, I could do this and I could do it different. I could do it better. Pretty precocious young kid I was back then, and I did. And I ended up creating multiple programs, franchised a kids club into 5 countries, invented an environmental product. We sold 4 million into 26 countries, and it just led from there. And then all of the way through, the one philosophy has been find out what people need at the time, deliver it in a unique way, and then look at how you can leverage that to grow and help more people. And so that has taken me all the way up to where we're going to be talking about very shortly about podcasting.
Amazing. So did you end up competing in the Olympics at all?
I no. Once you get a broken back, you can't get back to that level. But I did coach to the Olympic level and was a guest trainer at the Atlanta Olympics and have trained and consulted to numerous gold medal teams and people. So and it probably is as rewarding, if not more rewarding, being able to help other people get there. So it's still been a fun journey.
Definitely, definitely. I can agree with that. So tell us about from there, what happened next? What happened after that?
Well, while I was in the health and fitness industry, we had a philosophy of fitness for all. And I was living in Newcastle, and there was a network TV show that was a big kid show. And I thought, they really should have some activities on there for kids to get them up and out of the chair. So I put a submission in there, and bang, before I knew it, I had a 2-year spot on TV. And I thought, there's more to this. So I wrote and pitched and wrote and pitched, and ended up hosting and writing and producing a kids show on Channel 9, and then worked with Warner Brothers to help get one of their shows on. I was an exec producer for Warner Brothers. So the whole TV thing was quite a while ago, but when videos and the internet collided, that's when I got into video marketing and have really forged a long way into that. But then fast forward, COVID, that wonderful thing, COVID, and all of the skills that I had from the TV and hosting shows, it was like, well, I wanted to take my business to America. How do I get there? And I went to one networking event, got introduced to a podcast, and then to another one and to another one. And as you said, within 10 months, I'd reached 6 figures just from podcasting. And I thought, that's okay. Everybody's doing that. Doesn't everybody make six
No.
figures as a podcast guest? So I just kept doing it, for 3 or 4 years, one after another. And then one of my other clients came to me and said, Steve, can you help me with podcast, please? I said, sure. What would you like? Well, I've been paying to get on podcast as a guest for 3 months, 2 to 3 per week, and I haven't got a client yet. And I thought, really? And when I looked at what people were doing and what people were being taught to do, I thought, whoa, I've got to step in. And that's where I created Podcast Profits and Podcast Business Accelerator, just helping people get some return on effort because
Yeah,
as you know, running a podcast is a lot of work. Being a
it
guest
is.
is a lot of work, and you just want to have some sort of return.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, I get at least two or three emails every week requesting to be a guest on my podcast, from the person, or they've got a team that does outreach. I don't know. I just can't say yes to people because I don't know them. And like I met you in person and I
Mhm.
felt it as a valuable skill set for my audience to know. And I learn in the whole process. There is that ultimate motive to build that relationship, to learn from each other and see what we can do together. But I cannot establish that connection through a cold email. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. It's it's like going on LinkedIn and having the bot messages. Oh, I saw your profile. You're so inspiring, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to buy from me? It's like, what? And nobody should send a cold email out to somebody unless they've done the homework. They know exactly who the audience of that person is, what their pains are. They've listened to some episodes and they specifically say, hey, Priya, I've had to listen to some of your podcasts. And there's a couple of other things we teach people. From what I understand, your people need this, want this, would, and then we teach them how to, well, I'll call it pitch, but how to present two or three unique giveaways that would add value to the audience. So instead of, can I go on your podcast because I want to promote myself, which is all of the emails that you get are basically saying, it's like, well, no, how can I add value to your people and make you look the hero in front of them?
Yeah.
And when you turn that around, it's like that person is genuine. They've done their homework. They really care about my people. I'm at least going to reply. And that's all you want to do is just show that you care about the audience and the relationship that the host has with the audience.
Yeah, I would always be keen to hear the horror stories. So, what is your experience or any interesting horror story you have in this particular journey of podcasting or coaching others and anything with your clients or any horror story that you'd love to share?
Well, I think the main horror story was the first one is when she said, Steve, I'm paying to get on 2 to 3 per week and I haven't got a client. And honestly, when I sat and listened to that podcast, I had a vision of two people in the corner of a cold, dark factory with their back to me, geeking out, just talking to each other. That's how I felt listening to those two people because it was a high level and they were just geeking out. There was no, let's pull the audience in. There was no bringing me in at all. And when I went and did some homework and listened to a lot of different podcasts, I heard a lot of people just talking to each other. And your audience at home deserve to be spoken to, deserve to get some good information because here's a bit of training. I hope you don't mind. There are actually three relationships in a podcast episode. There's you and I. We've got a relationship. We had one first. That's why I'm on. There's my relationship with the audience. Now, at times, I would like to bring them in and talk to them and give them some good information. And then there's the other one that's very important that most forget about. It's your relationship with the audience. I'm only here because of you. They're only here because of you. I need to respect that. And where I can, elevate that relationship so that is a great feeling within the three relationships. And when you do that, it works really well.
Amazing. I don't think people realize that there's actually humans listening to it and it's not just a dialogue between two people. So people don't understand the psychology that it is going to affect or impact somebody.
Absolutely, absolutely. And quite often you'll hear, uh, and they'll get on, and they're taught this way: share your story, share your expertise, give a link, get on your knees, put your hands together, and look skyward. Because that's basically it. It's like yeah, you want to really have that three-way conversation, and that's what it's all about.
Okay. So what about your best success story?
Um, there's been quite a few, and let me give you two
Sure.
as two different examples. So a lot of people basically are not that confident at being a guest. They're good as being an interviewee, but not sort of taking control and pulling the audience in and having that good framework about exciting the host and the audience. They'll just answer the questions. Of course, it's easy. We'll just have a chat and we'll answer some questions. So we give a framework for people to be able to operate within. It's like going bowling with the bumpers up. Yeah, you can't be a train wreck. You can't go down the gutters. And we had one girl, she on her second ever podcast, the host said, "That was fantastic. Are you okay to be a regular guest, to have a regular segment?" Just on her second ever. And then because we teach podcast profits, as you want to get some sort of return, one of our students actually made $10,000 before the episode was recorded.
Wow. How was
And
that?
well, it's about the collaboration with the host, not just trying to pitch something to the audience. And they had such a good time that they said, well, how about we put your stuff and my stuff together and we create something and we'll launch it here. So we taught about the four P's. There is purchase. Maybe somebody in the audience will buy something from you. There's pass on, which is a referral. The host or someone in the audience might refer you to somebody. Hey, we've got some good stuff. But then the two big P's are partner and promote. And, I've had people that have been hosts of a tiny little podcast. And they said, "Steve, it's only little." I said, "It's okay. I want to give great value." Well, they hosted an event because they loved what I taught. Then they were an affiliate for a couple of times. That person with a tiny little podcast generated $16,000 in just 6 months. So when you treat everybody with respect and you collaborate business owner to business owner, it's a different ball game.
I think even this realization that they're business owners first and podcast host and guest next is such a big, like an aha moment. I'm like, wow, I didn't think about it that way. People just think it's just about the podcast, record the episode, post it, and done. Off you go. So I think even that realization is a massive game changer.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before we came on air is that if you are a guest, the podcast or a host, even the podcast is the doorway to open opportunities, not the destination. And like I just mentioned earlier that I've just recorded my first episode of my own radio show in America, which came from a person who was on a directory and said, "Let's get on and have a chat." We had a chat. We recorded a podcast. He said, "Steve, I've got to find another way to work with you." I thought, that's great. So we did that. So we've created two or three separate things just because we are both open to the opportunity of collaborating, not we've got to record an episode. And that really is the biggest aha all of my students and clients get is like, you know what? Yeah, it doesn't have to be all about, but they put too much pressure on the episode.
Yeah,
I've got to get it right. I've got to get it right. No, relax, have fun, give some good information,
that's it.
and you and people will want to spend more time with you. Not, I need to learn more from you. It's like, what's the person? It's Here's one from my video marketing days. It is personality and passion, not perfection, that produces profits.
That's a good one. Okay. So, in terms of hosting a radio show and podcasting, what kind of hats do you change between the two?
Um, Not a lot. Not a lot. it's still about the relationship, and it's about the value that you give the clients, the audience. Because if no one turns up, you don't have a podcast. So it is all about the relationship with your audience, and how you can have that along. And um, we have segments where we talk about creating that addictive personality, and how do you give them wins? How do you give them things so they have those surge of dopamines and testosterons and endorphins and all of those sorts of things that, dare I say it, you don't manipulate, but you can certainly encourage. And you want the people to walk away feeling good. Now, that could be feeling good because they've got some great information. They know it's going to be mind-blowing information. Like the people that keep coming back to yours, because you give them great information, and from time to time you have good people on that also gives them good information, and it's in a format that they feel good. So that's the biggest thing, is audience first. What can we give them in whichever format it is?
Okay. So in terms of the American radio show, is it going to be interview style show or just going to be you? And any difference between the Australian market and the American from your experience?
Yeah, the American market is like about 20 times bigger.
Yeah. Other than the fact that it's
They
so
pay
much
in
bigger.
American dollars. But and I'm unique over there because I've got an accent. Yeah, I'm just one of you guys here. But no, it's a lot. There's a lot more opportunities over there. That doesn't mean there are no opportunities here in Australia. As far as the format of the show, I'm virtually in control. I've got 40 minutes to fill in. There will be a lot of me talking, but there's also going to be a Q&A segment where there's going to be interaction with people. They're going to be pre-recorded, so they'll be sending in their questions, and I'll be answering those. And from time to time, I will have different people in, subject matter experts, that will probably fit in the middle of the show somewhere. So we're just really working it out right now. But yeah, getting on there to do a 40-minute monologue is going to be nice and, well, I'll say challenging, but there's going to be some good stuff. But the good thing is, and a lot of this has come from the TV work. Where we're sitting. I've got a camera right in front there. That's you guys at home. I've got a screen here. I've got a screen here when I'm doing my presenting. I've got my tablet here that I write on. And it's like, how do I juggle the people at home?
Mm.
If I was like most people, we like to just, oh, we're talking and I'm just going to talk because I just want to see how I'm looking on camera. No, but you're over here. So there's lots of, you've done heaps of these before. You're looking directly at me. I'm looking directly at you, but there's all this other stuff going on. And I learned that very early in the TV days. I had kids behind me that I had to work with. I had the character of the TV show that I had to work with. And I had these monstrous big cameras that I had to work. Well, that one's got the red light on. I got to be talking to you. Oh, that one's got the red light on. I got to be talking to you. So I'm quite fortunate that I can actually look into a black hole called the camera and create a relationship with it.
Beautiful. I think with my personal experience, I'm part of a peer mentoring group in the US, and the psychological difference between very capitalistic America and the other extreme end of the spectrum, with Australia being with significant tall poppy syndrome. I find that very interesting difference. Do you have anything to share in that perspective?
Absolutely. Because I've been working in and out of America since 1987. I started speaking at international conferences there, primarily in the fitness industry and then business, etc. So I've had a lot to do with them. But in the beginning, and now you see it more in networking, online networking, when COVID really hit big, you will hear them talk about somebody else and praise them and beef them up and put them on a pedestal. But if we did that in Australia, they'd be thinking that they'd be vomiting and it's like, oh, that's a bit too much to handle. But they genuinely do care. They genuinely do want to help. They do want to promote you. So the networking and things like that over there is totally different. It's not nowhere near the tall poppy syndrome that we have here at all. If you're working with some people and they want to help you, they will go out of their road to help you. And that that part of work over there is brilliant. I love it, and that's where I took my business from 0 to 6 figures in just 10 months, and all I did was networked and podcast. That was
Mm.
it.
Okay, so if someone wants to start with podcasting, what would be your best piece of advice?
Well, I've got a gift for your people that is a really good place to start. It's called my back pocket guide to the art and science. There is an art, there is a science to becoming a six-figure podcast guest. And I know you're either going to have it in the show notes or somewhere around here, but they will be able to get that. There's a little bit of video training in there, and there's the best of my tips in there on thinking about it a different way and being able to really start implementing it. I had one girl from America actually, and I've got a great video on this. And she said she implemented one tip in her next pod guesting and signed up the host as a client.
Wow.
And it was like, well, So that's my gift through you to your wonderful audience. And it's that the six-figure podcast guest. It's my back pocket guide. So yeah, be my guest. And once you grab that, then I will be able to let you know with whatever training that's coming up. And I do have some great free training that I'd love to invite your people to coming up pretty soon as well. So if they're interested, they can come and get both of that.
Sure. Thank you so much. That was a very generous offer. So, how is the podcasting scenario looking in 2025? And I would like you to touch upon a little bit of AI. What are your thoughts on AI and how it can impact and influence the whole podcasting world?
It's interesting. At the beginning of 2024, I was telling people that because 20, 30 years in video marketing, I always got the state of video marketing report every year. The beginning of 2024, I got the state of video and audio marketing report. 87% of major marketers across America were investing more in audio marketing, including podcasting and podcasting. Companies, and a report came out 6 months ago, companies and CEOs are now turning to their own podcast to take control of the narrative around their company. So you add all of that up, podcasting is exploding. The demand for pod guests and quality pod guests is exploding even more because of the multiple factor. And the great thing about that is you can actually get your personality across. Now, I know there's some tools out there right now that you could dump in a document, you could dump in your website, and within 5 minutes, you've got two AI bots having a conversation running their own podcast. One of my clients uses it extensively. One thing that I'm telling my people right now that it is your imperfections that is going to highlight your authenticity. So when you are on as a host or as a guest, it's your ums and ahs and it's your little stumbles and it's your little idiosyncrasies that you may do that will highlight your authenticity. Don't edit them out. Don't try and be perfect. Just be you because you have a much better personality than an AI bot.
Yeah. But do you ever use AI tools in any of your operations?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I sort of stayed away from it for a little while until I learnt a better way of doing it. and got better results. And now I definitely, because you've got to be efficient as possible.
Yeah.
I'm a person that is very creative, but my saying is give me a camera, not a keyboard.
Mm.
If you want me to write an email, if you want me to write some copy, I can sit and look at a blank page for an hour.
Yeah.
And now using some of the different tools, because it does contain a lot of my personality and it does have all of the body of my work behind them, I can use a certain tool, put my request in, and it'll come back in my exact voice. I thought, okay, because the way that I write, the way that I put things out, it's not perfect, but I want my personality to be in there.
Yeah, I did try the Notebook LM tool that actually creates that podcast. And that particular episode was about AI employees. It was an accident that I discovered that tool could actually do a podcast. And it was a 19-minute episode that was too good to just dump. So I actually recorded a 20-second disclaimer saying this episode about AI employees was scripted and recorded by AI. So I had that humanized disclaimer there before I could post it. And I use a lot of AI tools to actually
Yeah.
repurpose this podcast episode because my team, my use case is the offshore team that I use, English is not their first language. So to
Mm.
overcome that language barrier, I give them access to these AI tools. And one podcast episode can be turned into a YouTube video, into an actual podcast, repurposed into a blog post, chopped into reels. All these jazz is done in like 7 to 10 minutes, which is not humanly possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're coming down to things like that, it's like, well, and I've got you may have seen Hunter at the Elite Marketers. He works with me. He does a lot of the tech work. Now I'm moving him away from some of the more manual tech work into some of the more high level work because we have other things doing the more manual work, and it's increasing his value, not decreasing it.
Mm, yeah. Okay. So, in terms of coming back to your podcasting offers and framework, what do you think people find it very challenging? Is it just reaching out to people or actually recording or speaking the right thing in the podcast? Is it the pre-podcasting stage, during the podcast, or the follow-up? So, I kind of see it as three different phases.
Mm.
One is actually reaching out and securing that opportunity to be a pod guest and actually being a guest that delivers what you have to do to make sure you get that return on your investment of time and efforts. And then the follow up is a long term collaboration partnering opportunity. Which of these three people do you think have more struggle with?
Well, if it's okay with you, I'll touch on all three and some
Sure.
of the struggles and how to overcome them. It goes right back to uh, my early video marketing and authority marketing days. You got to be unique. And my first book was Stand Up, Stand Out, or Stand Aside. I actually did want to call it Be Different or Bugger Off, but my wife, who was an Amazon expert, said, no, you probably shouldn't do that. But that's what it is. You got to stand up and stand out. So you have to be unique. And I talk about the brown box syndrome. And if you just go with a thing, and here's a couple of sentences that are banned in our training. You never, never, ever, ever say these ever again. I am passionate about, and I can speak on this. Now, I'm sure you've probably got hundreds of emails saying, Priya, I'm passionate about this and I can speak on this. I would be good for your podcast. Tear it up, throw it away. So, the first thing is if you are going to do any outreach, if you are going to go on directories and things like that, you have to be unique and perceived high value to get on. Be the prize, not the professor. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is when you learn how to work with the three relationships in the conversation, and we have this, I'll give another 30-second training DNQC: data, narrative, quantify, confirm. You've just asked me a question. I'm giving you some information. That reminds me of somebody that we worked with not that long ago who had the same problem as your audience. Here's how we fixed it. And here's the quantifiable results that they got from it. Here's the quick story. Now, at the end of that story, I'm talking about how I'm particularly helping people, or the other person is. And it's the when Harry met Sally effect. I want what they're having. So you've given some information, told a story, got them excited about stuff that you do in a way that, damn, if you've done it for them, I want it too. And then you could confirm and say, Priya, I know a lot of your people would love those same sort of results too, wouldn't they? And you would say, yeah, this is fantastic. They would love that. So the people at home, you've given some information. You've brought them in because there's a story. I get a story. I want that. Will you hurry up and tell me how I can contact you? And when you have that sort of the language framework and bringing all of the people in, when you're getting to the end of it, it's like, well, let's get the info. And then as far as the follow-up goes, yes, you need to have things in place because the podcast still could and should be the appetizer. And how do you do that? And the work with the host. Now, I know one of my colleagues who does a lot of work with all of his guests, and at the end of it say, hey, listen, you were talking to me about some stuff here. I might be able to help you with that. He gets them as clients, not collaboration partners. Or there might be, hey, fantastic. Really appreciate the episode we had last week, and I'd probably send a video email. I've got a couple of things that we could cook up together. I think we'll create something really special. When you got time to talk about them? Not a pitch, something exciting, and it's of value. So when you put all those into the melting pot and you do it right, it's pretty hard not to be successful because coming from a place of serving is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, I always try to re-emphasize to people selling equals serving. Once you understand that, you don't feel icky about selling anymore because all you're trying to do is serve. You're just trying to provide value.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the biggest thing. In fact, we launched it yesterday, the promotion for a new sales type of program, and it is all about how to sell from inside your buyer's head and heart. How to have the first part of the conversation so you become an invited, trusted guest into their head and their heart. It's a really cool way of selling, but that's for another chat.
I know, I know. We've got so much deep in podcasting, but I feel I would not do justice if I don't mention about your success with cigarette butts. So do you want to share about that? I definitely want to, want the listeners to hear about it. Sorry, I should have done that earlier, but
No,
I'm
no, no, no,
like,
no.
I
It's
forgot
it's
that I
a
don't want to miss
it's
that
a great,
episode.
great, 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 great story. Is this an total audio only, or is it video as well?
Video as well.
Oh, good. Okay, great. So, real quick story. I'm a passionate environmentalist, and indoor smoking bans came out. Nobody was ready for them, so there were cigarette butts everywhere. And as soon as you saw one, the reticular activator kicked in. You saw them everywhere. And I said to my mate, I said, we've got to do something about this. And he said, yeah, look at them. So I woke up one night, I thought, cigarette butts, people should carry personal ashtrays. That would solve everything. And I didn't know, but my mate was actually working in the tobacco industry at the time. And I said, oh, I think I've invented the first personal ashtray. He said, no, they've been around for years. There's heaps on the market. And he said, the one question that started $1 million business was, why aren't people using them? So a few more nights later, I woke up, but, human butt, cigarette butt. Why don't I create a portable personal ashtray that is in the shape of a human bum?
You carry it.
I've got one here all the time. And so we did that, went through the prototyping and all those sorts of things, and then took it to market. And the couple of big business lessons in this, we didn't sell the personal ashtrays. We sold cigarette butt litter reduction campaigns and solutions. So while everybody else was trying to flog off a personal ashtray, we sold a solution. We sold a campaign. We sold 4 million into 26 countries, won environmental awards. There was 13 existing personal ashtrays on the market when we started, but we sold the campaigns. We were the only ones selling the campaigns. We became international authorities on cigarette butt litter. But, and that was the big thing. And so many people out there are trying to sell the pieces of their solution, not the system and not the payoffs. And that was what skyrocketed us to number one and to $1 million business selling plastic bums.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a crucial message to everyone listening, is not just to sell the solution. It's not about you. When you make people feel like they're part of a bigger mission, they're part of a bigger why, I think people would love to be part of it, not just saying, hey, I want to put that money back in my pocket. Instead, you say, we are in this together and we are here to achieve this bigger mission. I think people want to be part of that mission. So I think that's such a valuable story. And that's why I wanted everyone to know that. I didn't want to miss out on that great story. I mean, I had too many stories from the response form. But I think podcasting, especially in 2025, a lot of people, as you say, know the importance of audio marketing. And
Mm,
many people want to start their own podcast. I know a marketing consultant here started her own podcast and she spent a lot of money, in hiring studios and doing it. So, yeah, so people take that route. So
yeah.
that's why I think I wanted to have your words of wisdom on how to do things right. So, for people who don't know how to do this, how can they reach out to you and what are the offers they can sign up for?
Look, the easiest way, from time to time, I run my podcast profits training, and there'll be another one starting at the beginning of February. If they're listening to this, I'll make it so easy. You're going to put the link in for the download of the Back Pocket Guide. If they just want to reach out, steve@stevebrossman.com. I will give them what's going on, what's coming up next. And even if they just want to ask a question, I'll answer it. I'm only too happy to do that because if I can help people spread the word and actually get a return on their own effort, whatever that is. So steve@stevebrossman.com, you're going to put the link in to get their own copy of the Back Pocket Guide on how they can become a six-figure podcast guest. And we can certainly let them know what training we have available and be able to get them all set up.
Sure. So I'll leave all the links in the description below. So please reach out and download the Back Pocket Guide. And this episode will be aired before the end of January. So make sure you take that opportunity to attend the event in February. If you're listening to it after February, obviously Steve is going to have these as a recurring event. So please reach out and find out what's the next event and how can you use your time and efforts to get your best return on investment as a podcast guest or if you're a podcast host. I'm sure as a host today, I learned so much information. This is literally years of experience of Steve's time that I get to consume in literally 30, 40 minutes. And this is so much valuable. So I truly appreciate your time today, Steve. And I'm sure people who are listening have got so much out of this session. And it's just the perspective shift that it's not just things that happen during the interview, that there's so much, in the mindset and the right strategy and reaching out. There's so much work that you need to do right to get that return on your investment. So thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Priya, thanks so much for having me on and the work that you're doing with your people, just giving them some great knowledge. I'm looking forward to doing some more things with you. It's going to be lots of fun. And for you guys at home, if you're thinking about doing a podcast or you've got some message to share, being a guest is very, very valuable. And just get out there and do it.
That's it. Just do it. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you so much, everyone who's listening today. I'll be back with another interesting episode. And I hope 2025 is going to be an amazing year for all of us. So I'll see you all in the next episode.
Cheers.